What is up? Welcome into yet another edition of Benstant Reaction, an instant reaction to news, stories, a game, whatever is happening in the sports world. This is my instant reaction, therefore we call it Benstant Reaction. There is very minimal times where I start recording a show before the game is even over. I have the updates right here, but at this point, it is 34-3 Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray is having a superb game. Sorry for the stuff in the background. We are shooting the Locked On Suns podcast in just a minute here, but I decided I wanted to dive deep into this game quickly before I dive deep into the Phoenix Suns in another video on Locked On Suns. Go ahead and check that out if you haven't done so already. Me and Brandon Clean do awesome work over there. This might be the most impressive Cardinal win I think I've seen over the last decade. It, at minimum, is the best Cardinal win under Jonathan Gannon. This is better than the Philadelphia Eagles win. This is better than the Atlanta Falcons win last year with Kyler Murray coming back in his first game. This is the most impressive win. This is a team that the Cardinals haven't beaten at home in half a decade or so. It's been that long since you've beaten the Los Angeles Rams at home. It's been however long since you've beaten the Rams at all. The last time the Arizona Cardinals beat the Rams, Cliff Kingsbury was the head coach of this team, and they were on their way to being stomped in the playoffs by none other than the Los Angeles Rams. The Cardinals came in as a team that we all overreacted to last week. And I don't take this back at all, Kyler Murray, I blamed him for a lot of the gameplay last week for losing. Yes, had a fine game, but when you have 3 timeouts and 2 minutes to go, you have to win that game. And then you wonder, how will this team respond? How will this team respond when you can't go down 0-2, your chances of missing the playoffs go down significantly when you are 0-2. Granted, that's a 17-game sample. That was a 16-game sample size. We are now in a 17-game sample size. Things change. But still, you don't want to dig yourself out of an early hole when you have the Detroit Lions coming to town next week at home, staring a 0-3 deficit in the face. Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals answered the bell in this game. Credit to Jonathan Gannon for getting this team ready. Sean McVay has kicked the tar out of this team ever since he became the head coach of the Los Angeles Rams. Kicked the tar out of Cliff Kingsbury, kicked the tar out of last year out of Jonathan Gannon. At this time, about 6 months ago, or probably more like 10, 11 months ago, time gets messed up in this day and age, the Los Angeles Rams came to State Farm Stadium and beat the bleep out of the Arizona Cardinals. That wasn't that long ago. That was less than a year ago. It was 8 months ago, I think. Came into State Farm Stadium and destroyed the Arizona Cardinals. This team, 8 months later, is now stomping the lights of the Los Angeles Rams, getting their first division win under Jonathan Gannon. There's not much more you can say about that. And I know that we had the Marvin Harrison Jr. breakout game, and at this point, 4 receptions, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, just getting open all over the place, taking the top off the defense. This is exactly what we expected out of Marvin Harrison Jr. And before I get deeper into this game, here is the main thing that I wanted to talk about. It was that first touchdown that made the game 7-0 to Marvin Harrison Jr. And because it's Marvin Harrison Jr.'s first touchdown catch of his career, coming off of a game last week in which he just didn't play very well, wasn't dissecting defenses very well, and was just overall seemed a little over his skis. You expect that from a rookie coming in with high expectations, and not only just high expectations to live up to the 4th overall pick, but high expectations to live up to the name on the back of his jersey of Marvin Harrison. That might have been the prettiest ball I've ever seen Kyler Murray throw. Yes, the catch by Marvin Harrison Jr. was great, but that ball could be placed in one spot of the field, and it was either a touchdown or it was out of bounds. And one thing Kyler Murray didn't have last year was that receiver that could make that tough catch, get his feet in bounds, and make the payoff to what was a spectacular Kyler Murray throw. The catch is amazing, but throwing that ball within millimeters of it going out of bounds, or if you underthrow that ball, it's picked off, to a receiver that is lacking confidence, that might be the greatest ball I've ever seen Kyler Murray throw. And that's what got this team started. And I mentioned last week the ESPN article of potentially trading Budda Baker for Hassan Reddick. And at that point on Friday, I said, you kind of have to do it. You got to help out this pass rush. I am out of that business. You are keeping Budda Baker on this team, the heart and soul of this defense, flying around on the field. There's just so many things that this game resurrected. The Budda Baker narrative that started last Friday of potentially trading him for a pass rusher, I'm out on it. That was obviously craziness. That was an overreaction. I'm willing to admit that was an overreaction. But Jonathan Gannon getting this team ready, Kyler Murray firing a ball downfield, and that takes me to the Marvin Harrison Jr. speculation from last week. Marvin Harrison Jr. is not just only, and I mentioned this a second ago, living up to the reputation of being the 4th overall pick in a draft filled with dozens upon dozens upon dozens of talented players. He's living up to the name Marvin Harrison. So you kind of expect him to come out a little nervous, not be able to come out and play to his full ability like we saw at Ohio State. But Kyler Murray giving him a chance to boost his confidence up, show everyone what he's made of, and this wide receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr., just seemingly dunking on defensive backs, finding spaces to get open, it just added relief that this was indeed the right pick. Get Kyler Murray a real wide receiver 1. And Marvin Harrison Jr. saw what Malik Neighbors did today and just said, yeah, I'll raise you another one. This team will go as far as the quarterback Kyler Murray will take them. And this is why I hold Kyler Murray to such a high standard. This is why I hold Kyler Murray accountable when they lose close games last week that I believe they should have won. Because he is a superstar quarterback that has been hidden behind bad ownership, a bad front office, and a buffoon of a head coach in what was the previous regime in Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim. Now that he has support, the gloves are off. We cannot coddle Kyler Murray because we know exactly what he is made of. I've watched it in spurts. The NFL world is just now getting their first look at what real supported Kyler Murray is. I've got people that I'm trying to convince on the daily, this guy is elite. I've got people close in my life that think the guy still can't play. And I'm like, wait a second. The guy that makes 4 defensive linemen miss and then throws a ball on a dart to Elijah Higgins, and before that throws the prettiest deep ball I have ever seen to Marvin Harrison, the back of the end zone, where if he throws it a centimeter off target, it's an interception. I know how good Kyler Murray is. You know how good Kyler Murray is. That is why I hold him to such a high standard. Because of what games like we saw today. Because of games like we saw 2 years ago against the Oakland Raiders or against the Las Vegas Raiders. This guy is capable of magical things. He's got one of the best arms in the NFL. I'm not sure how many players have a better deep ball than Kyler Murray. He's one of the most elusive players in the NFL. He's one of the most accurate players in the NFL. And that is why I hold him to that standard. Because I know how good he is. And that is, at the peak of his powers, a top 6 quarterback in the NFL. Matthew Stafford is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. He was in the playoffs last year. He's highly accomplished. He looked like a high school player compared to Kyler Murray today. And Kyler Murray, his offensive line wasn't doing him a lot of favors at the beginning of this game. A lot of times, getting trapped in the pocket, guys bearing all over him, and he is just firing missiles to players. This is what we all thought Kyler Murray was, which is why I will never, ever hold him to a lower standard than of a superstar quarterback. Because although people make jokes about the video games or make jokes about his height, he still is one of the most electric quarterbacks in the NFL. He doesn't lack any arm talent. He's incredibly elusive. He's incredibly accurate. And there are still people that deny Kyler Murray. And at this point, I don't know how you look at the other quarterbacks in the division and say, for the next 5 years, I want Brock Purdy. I want Matthew Stafford. I want Geno Smith. Because the future of this division is Kyler Murray. It ain't Brock Purdy. I don't know how you watch both players and think that there's anything even close. Kyler Murray is just electric, and everyone is seeing it now as a quarterback who is being supported by a regime who gives a bleep about him. Because for too long, Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim were riding the coattails of Kyler Murray. And now he is reaping the benefits of having a real coaching staff. And it's why I said this team is a playoff contender. And it's why at the beginning of the season, I predicted this team at the peak of its powers being the 7th seed in the NFC, being a playoff team, because this team will go as far as Kyler Murray will take them. And if he is as good as I believe he is, and if he's as good as what he showed the whole NFL world today, Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford and company, there's no reason why this Cardinals team can't be a playoff team. There's no reason. If he just gets a little bit of support from his defense and his pass catchers are actually catching the football, there's no reason this team cannot be what is nothing less than a sensational team. And at this point, Kyler Murray, over 300 yards all-purpose, running all over the field, passing the ball over the field, no interceptions at this point. Just an all-around elite game from Kyler Murray. Credit to Drew Petzing, who completely changed his game plan, decided to heave the ball downfield. Credit to Jonathan Gannon for getting this team ready after losing a heartbreaking game in Buffalo last week. And most of all, credit to Kyler Murray for not basically getting overwhelmed, not letting the pressure get to him, but beating down on a team who was responsible for his lowest moment in the NFL in that playoff game back in 2020. Just a insane effort from the Arizona Cardinals. And Marvin Harrison Jr. has had a breakout game. I expect him to just be awesome from here on out. Kyler Murray has put the world back on notice. And at this moment, it's really got me thinking, could they beat the Detroit Lions? I don't know. But if you asked me last week, I would have told you it's a hard no. But this team, the way that they're playing with their hair on fire, there's not much that they can't do.